This time around on the Bottomless Pit Podcast, myself and Foley go in depth on something that we've briefly mentioned in the past, but it's something that we both agree has been one of the best things we have ever done. That is an 8-day hike in the Chilean Andes of Patagonia. We give you a breakdown of exactly what the various hiking options are in the Torres del Paine National Park, including the W hike, which has previously been listed as the second greatest bucket list trek on Earth. The mountains, the glaciers, the rivers and the wildlife make this one an unforgettable experience, and it's one that Foley and I have wanted to include on this podcast for a while. If you enjoy this episode or have previously enjoyed other ones in which we talk about travel related things, you may want to go check out the What the Faux podcast, which is specifically a travel podcast hosted by a married couple from England who are both awesome people who I was lucky enough to meet at their second annual What the Faux Backpackers Party in London back in October. This is where travellers, podcasters and YouTubers from all over the globe met up for drinks and to exchange travel stories. The What the Faux podcast is one of my personal new favourites, and their mix of games, guests and awesome travel stories really make for a funny, interesting and addictive podcast that you will definitely love. Each month they do an episode on a new country, so you can go through their back catalogue and find the ones you will find most interesting, although I do recommend listening to them all because they are really fantastic. Once again, that is the What the Faux podcast. Faux is spelled P-H-O, and if you want to know why it's called that, then you should go and listen to their first ever episode. And if you like what you hear, then go follow them on Twitter at Faux Podcast, or on Instagram search for What the Faux Podcast. As well as following them, if you're enjoying our podcast, why not subscribe to us wherever you get podcasts and come follow us on Twitter at The BP Podcast, where we are very active. Or if you'd rather not have us popping up in your timeline so often, but still want to be kept up to date with the most important things, then go like our page on Facebook, just search the Bottomless Pit Podcast and look for the green TBP logo. Alternatively, you can always get in contact with the show via email at bottomlesspitpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from you guys. Right, with all that stuff out of the way, let's head on down to Patagonia and get stuck in to episode 35 of the Bottomless Pit Podcast.
The Bottomless Pit. Find us on social media and everywhere you get podcasts.
Now, I don't think I'm out of order in saying this for both of us, but the hike we did for 8 days in the south of Chile definitely came within the top 3 things we did in our whole sort of 6 to 8 months of travelling a couple of years ago, right?
Oh, 100%. I've actually talked about it to a few people, and it's possibly one of the top 5, top 10 things I've ever done.
It was absolutely incredible. I mean, it was 8 days long, but we're going to go into detail about it specifically and all the sort of different variations that you can do, because an 8-day hike is not the only option. If you're not that interested in hiking, you can also do a 1-day, a 3-day or a 5-day. But shall we first talk about our own experiences and take people through sort of day by day what we came across and what things looked like and, you know, things that happened? Because there were kind of a few little stories that came out of this hike, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. Not only that, but like we had no intention of doing this in the first place, did we?
Not at all. It was something we didn't really have a plan for South America in general. It was just something that I was Googling, you know, what to do in Patagonia, and that seemed to be the hike, you know, the thing to do to get out there and see the environment, you know, of Patagonia and really get to grips with it all. And so I was sort of keen to do that, and I think you were a bit hesitant at the start as far as wanting to do it, thinking about the costs of it all and what it would all be. But once we worked it out, it was actually worked out to be cheaper than it would have been to stay in hostels, you know, for the equivalent amount of time.
Yeah, big time. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. I was kind of hesitant initially, but I'm so glad we did it.
It's one of those that I look back on as being one of the top things, but I know for a fact that during it, I was like, well, not at the beginning so much, but towards the end, I was just like, oh my God, I want this to end. You know, I can't wait for this to be over, because I was just knackered. Like, I personally had somehow strained my calf, and so I was struggling with an injured leg, and I had blisters all over my feet, because we're not experienced walkers, and the full 8 days thing was designed for experienced walkers.
We're in no way serious hikers. I walk a lot, but that's just because I didn't have a car for so long. But yeah, no, we're definitely not experienced hikers at all. So just in case, guys, you're looking, search for, I guess, Torres del Paine hike. So it's Torres del Paine, which is Paine. It's in the south of Chile, in Patagonia down there. It's like right at the base of the Andes.
Yeah, so what you do is you get a bus, or you fly into Argentina or Chile, and then you get a bus to this little town called Puerto Natales, and that's basically the town that serves this national park, Torres del Paine, and it's pretty much there purely for hikers. All that's in the town are hostels, restaurants, banks, and like outdoor shops, selling tents and hiking gear. And then from there you get a little bus. How long was it? An hour or so out to the national park?
Yeah, an hour and a half. You get it out kind of very early in the morning. Not stupid early by any means. Oh, and guys, yeah, if you're wondering, go back to episode 5. We talked about this a lot more briefly. Head back there if you're not bothered to listen to us for 25 minutes talking about it. But one of the things we mentioned in one of the other ones about the funny place names, because I'm just looking on Google Earth now about Torres del Paine and stuff, and I'd forgotten there was a place called Gapon.
Yeah, and there was always the street names called Maipu.
Yeah, true. Oh, yes.
But should we get into it? Should we get into sort of, once you get to the park, you get this bus out to the national park, Torres del Paine, and then you go to the sort of visitor centre, pay a little entrance fee, and they register you because although it's a national park, this isn't like a place with picnic benches and play areas and stuff. This is the wilderness, When you're 4 days into the 8-day hike, you are 4 days walk away from the nearest road. It's properly out there, so they register you, and every couple of days you have to register at a ranger hut so they know you're still okay, because there are wild animals out there. There's pumas, there's all sorts of things, and stuff can happen. You're on the side of a mountain, you could fall off. You're crossing streams and rivers. Yeah. Shit could go down. It's it's the real deal.
Yeah, one thing we should say as well is that our great friend Hannah did this with us as well. We met Hannah initially in Buenos Aires. If you go back and check out our Buenos Aires podcast, it would have been around episode 4, episode 5, or episode 6. That's where we talked about meeting Hannah, and she did this hike with us. So the three of us we split a 4-man tent, right?
Yeah, we split a 4-man tent. It was one of those tents that had a little porch, so we could keep our bags in the little porch area. And then we had a 4-man tent between 3 of us for sleeping in. And we sort of split the weight amongst ourselves. So one day I would take the poles, you would take the tarpaulin, and say Hannah would take the food. And then on the next day we'd all sort of rotate. So everyone was pulling their weight, essentially, doing their bit. And to begin with, you start taking a nice easy walk away from the Rangers Centre. It's quite flat. You can actually see the towers. The Torres is the Spanish name for towers, and you can see the 3 sort of stone towers that you're aiming to get to by day 8. You're looking at them from behind right now, and you're walking around the side of the mountain. And the ultimate goal is to get up to the mountains, and you're going to do a mountain pass on around day 4, up and over and down the other side.
That's one of the ways to do it. For sometimes you don't actually go over the mountain pass, right?
So yeah, exactly. So that's if you're going to do the full 8-day trek, is you're going to do this big mountain pass. It's really for intermediate to advanced hikers. However, as I say, you can see the towers that are the sort of centerpiece of this national park from the very beginning, which sort of lends itself to single day trips being available. You can literally get a bus from Puerto Natales up to the visitor center. You can walk up 50 minutes or so up to the towers, take your photos, go back down, get a bus back to town and leave. You can also do a 3-day option, which goes up to the towers and then across through the mountains up to past a couple of lakes and up to a glacier. If you want to do the 5 or 6-day option, you do that to the glacier and back again, or you can do the full 8-day loop. Basically, what we mean by all of these different options, you'll be able to get a better idea if you follow us on our Twitter account. At the BP Podcast, we'll tweet out a map of that park, and you can kind of get an idea for what the trail looks like.
We were originally told, kind of, weren't we? It's it's either a 5-day or a 10-day. But I vaguely remember going into it feeling we're going to be here for 10 days or so, and then someone going, well, you could probably do it in 8 or 9.
That's right. We thought. Well, they say online, they sort of say 8 to 10 days. And we said 10 just because we're not, advanced hikers. We wanted to give ourselves the time. But we were told that 10 days it's really for people who are actually going very slowly. And so the thing is, you have to pack food for 8 days worth. And if you run out of food, then you're kind of stuck. You just have to get to the next, get to the exit as quickly as possible. That's, it's part of it. It's part of the experience.
Yeah, it was during that hike as well that and of course, you're carrying, I know we're not really following any straight line here, but you're carrying all the equipment and stuff as well, like sleeping bag, all your clothes for certain times of day, which is the way that I think we did it, didn't we? Like we had, okay, these are the clothes I'm going to sleep in. These are the clothes I'll hike in, and these are the clothes I'll wear in the evening after the hike, but before I go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly, because it's obviously important you're going to be sweating during the day, regardless of it being the south of Patagonia and it not being, very, very, very warm. You're going to be sweating during the days. You're going to have wet clothes, and that is the last thing you want to be wearing at night once you've cooled down and once the sun has gone down. There weren't really showers every day. There was, every couple of campsites, there would be a ranger hut or some sort of refugio, they called it, which was kind of like a hostel, where if you had the money, you could stay in there, but it was expensive. But they would have showers for everyone, but it wasn't every day, like I said. So,
no, I think we had one hot shower throughout the whole 8 days, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
At most.
So I mean, we were very stinky.
Yeah. But we didn't care because we weren't the only ones. Big time. And we were lucky enough that we'd talk to people who had either talked to people who had done it or had done it, or just a lot of locals in the town previously who were able to give us some good advice for the most part, except when we're in Ushuaia, when they said, oh, you should buy your hiking equipment here in Argentina. It's cheaper than it is in Chile. That wasn't the case.
That wasn't the case by about 300%. It was ridiculous. We paid, I think, 3 times the price to buy. We decided to buy a tent because we actually originally planned we'll buy a tent and then rather than staying in hostels, we'll just sort of camp our way up Patagonia. It'll be cheaper. We'd also heard that yes, in Argentina it's cheaper to buy camping stuff, so we bought this tent. It was expensive, but we thought we're getting a good deal, so we'll definitely do that. We turn up 2 days later in Puerto Natales and they're a third of the price. We're like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
And then for this hike anyway, you could rent all your camping equipment you needed, and it wasn't that expensive. It was cheap. It was cheaper than the cost of a hotel or hostel for each night. And we ended up renting things like sleeping bags and cooking stoves and all that stuff anyway.
Yeah. Which as James said, you can do. And there's any amount of I say any amount. There's 2 or 3 places that you can rent that stuff from. And I was hesitant about renting out oil skins because, I just didn't want to pay the extra money for it. And in the end I did because I figured better safe than sorry. And I'm glad I did, and I'm glad I had them with me. So yeah, guys, you should do that as well. If you're thinking about doing it, it's phenomenal. It's the bottom of the Andes, guys. It's
bottom of the world.
Yeah, exactly. It is literally next stop Antarctica, and I just clicked on one that has the O and the W on it, and I'd forgotten the sheer difference in it is such. It is really extra 4 days worth of hiking. But at one stage, then when you come over on whenever you hit the highest point on it, and I didn't bring the map with me to Canada actually. It must be still back home in Ireland. But it has the name of the bits on it and whatever. You come up over the highest point and you just walk out and you see the glacier out in front of you, and it's just phenomenal. It was absolutely amazing.
It was something that we really felt that we'd earned. I mean, we'd hiked for 4 days, and at the end of day 3, we were camping in some woods at the bottom of where the mountain really goes up. So we're kind of walking uphill for 3 days anyway, but it's reasonably shallow. It's not a very steep incline. But day 3, we camp at the base of this mountain because it goes up about 1,000 meters. And you have to sort of just hike up for 4 hours to get to the top. And because it's going so far up, the running water starts to freeze and it becomes snow. But you're sweating, so you're still wearing shorts and t-shirt. And you're clambering over snow. You're climbing over rivers. That's a hard half day's work, and you get to this top of this mountain where the mountain passes, and you start to walk over, and just in front of you, one of the biggest glaciers in South America just opens up in front of you, and it's incredible. The view, you'll never get that feeling of wow, because you're exhausted, you're relieved, you're impressed, you can't believe you made it. It's everything. And then the rest of the walk down the other side of the mountain to the next campsite is just following the glacier all along. So you've just got mountains and woods on your left, and to the right this massive expanse of just frozen wilderness. It's incredible.
Absolutely amazing. And as James mentioned it earlier as well, there is wild animals, so do be careful. Because it was on the first night, wasn't it? We don't actually know what kind of animal it was, but it took a lot of Hannah's nice snack food. Because that is one of the things, guys, that would say, well, like James already said it, that you have to bring, obviously, your own food for the X amount of days that you're going to be hiking. But you will be hungrier than you realize. Like, that's a guarantee. That doesn't mean you need the extra food, you know what I mean? But you will just be craving it.
Absolutely. I mean, you're sweating so much constantly. You're really working hard, and so we're just eating lots of high sugar and high fat food, weren't we? And pasta as well, just as much as that as we could.
Yeah, and porridge in the morning, really, wasn't it? That's kind of pretty much all we ate.
So you mentioned briefly there about the animal that took Hannah's food. Do you want to sort of tell that story, how that came to be?
Yeah, definitely. So Hannah lost her treats. That's the end of the story. No, so she had her, like, whatever, trail mix, nuts, bits of chocolate and stuff in one of the side pockets on her backpack. And in our tent, we had there's the three of us in it, sleeping in there. I was in the middle. I think on this night, was it, that you were closest to the door? You and Hannah just swapped for some, throughout. I was always in the middle. We'll explain that shortly, but why. And then our bags would be in the porch. But I went outside to take a leak at one stage, probably 2-3 in the morning. I don't actually know exactly what time. I didn't take any notice of how the bags had been set up. I saw a big shadow of a God knows what. Like, it was just a big black shadow against the background, a silhouette of something that was shaped like a very, very large dog or something along those lines. Now, my depth perception would have been off because it was pitch black and, that time of night, and I was just after waking up and stuff. But I'm very glad I was using the bathroom at the time, because it scared me like no end. Because, of course, at that time of night, it looked huge to me as well.
That's crazy. And like I heard everything going on. I don't know if it was before or after you'd have woken up. I don't know if you'd have noticed whether the bag was gone or not, but I actually heard the bag get taken. I was closest to the tent door, and I sort of I was woken up with a kind of rustling and snuffling going on next to essentially my head, and I just assumed it was going to be rats or something like that, which isn't nice, but I thought it's something that can't come in here anyway, so I'll just try and go to sleep. But then all of a sudden there was kind of like a sliding noise and a massive thud, and I couldn't for the life of me work out what that would have been, and I didn't want to open the tent door to find out because I didn't know what was out there. But what it was in the morning, as we found out, was that the way we stacked our bags up, we had yours and Hannah's bag on the bottom and mine on top, kind of built it up like a wall, and as this thing took Hannah's bag away from underneath the tent and out, my bag then fell onto the floor. That was what the thud was. So when we woke up the next day and went outside, her food, or the wrappers from her food, was kind of strewn everywhere all across the campsite. Her bag had been dragged, a good 5-10 meters away from the tent, and there were slash marks in it and big tooth-looking marks in it. And we ended up asking one of the rangers along the way sort of what that might have been, and he suggested it was, well, most likely a puma. That would also fit to your story of you seeing the sort of big dog-like shaped thing, and that's kind of a scary thing to encounter on the first night of an 8-day hike.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it got into Hannah's bag and took her treats and stuff. We got on throughout the week, and we shared the treats with her and stuff like that. Obviously we'd have rather had not to, but we did.
Yeah, we got on with it.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing else we could do, in fairness. So other than, I don't think we didn't have any real issues like that for the rest of the time, did we?
Not as far as that's concerned. I mean, there are a couple of things I said at the very beginning with blisters or little muscle pulls and stuff.
Yeah.
But, that all comes with the territory, I suppose, and it's all stuff you can expect. It wasn't pleasant, but it was fine.
There was one of the nights I do remember that we were sleeping on a bit of a slant.
Oh, yeah.
And I just remember all of a sudden, all three of us were halfway. We woke up and we were halfway down the tent.
We'd slid down in our sleep.
Yeah, and I think we must have gone down. We must have had our feet. I don't know. I can't remember which way we had our feet and stuff, but it's a good job we set up the tent that way rather than all three of us landing on each other.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Although since you mentioned sleeping and stuff, why don't you go into the reason why you were the one sleeping in the middle?
Well, the sleeping bag that I had was pretty much for +5 degrees Celsius. So anyone who knows that, it's a 2-season kind of one. Normally it'll be absolutely fine for me, but we ended up sleeping in 0 degrees and -1 degrees and stuff. So I was in the middle, and we just kind of thought that I was in the middle, it'd be more body heat around me and everything.
But there was also another benefit of you being in the middle, and it was because of our lovely story time that we'd have each night.
Yes, well, I was just about to say, it might not have been the cause of me being in the middle, but it definitely...
It was a lucky benefit.
For sure. So I had a book with me because I knew, We were not going to have phones, we're not going to have Wi-Fi, nothing of that on the trail. And to be honest, I didn't miss it one bit. I didn't miss my phone. I didn't miss anything like that at all.
Me neither.
It was so nice. We were lucky that I think we had one night, did we, where we had Wi-Fi in the hostel and we just downloaded a load more podcasts.
That's right, yeah, there was one of those refugios that actually let people who were camping to come inside and just, use their facilities, so we just, got on the Wi-Fi and downloaded podcasts for the next few days. Yeah,
that was good, really good. But yeah, so I had The Adventures of Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer with me, the book, and I would, at bedtime, I would read the story, just as you normally would read a book, but I'd read it out loud to Hannah and to James to help everyone fall asleep.
And it sounds really strange or really like old-fashioned or however you're thinking about it. I don't know how weird you find that, but it was actually really nice. And it was a very nice end to the day because you're just exhausted. There's nothing else to do there because it gets dark early, about 7 o'clock, and you want to go to sleep because you're knackered. And so just lying there and having someone just read a story to you, which you obviously probably haven't had done since you were a kid, was actually very, very nice.
Yeah, and we didn't end up finishing the book, unfortunately, but I do know, I think the dulcet tones and I managed to put on a southern accent when doing it as well. I think that definitely helped.
It absolutely did. No, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So that was bedtime. And we'd be up in the morning, and Hannah'd be, we'd all wake at the same time. We'd be like, right, we need to be ready to go at this time. And me and you were so slow in the mornings. Hannah would be up and just ready to go, and we're just like, oh yeah, shut up, give me a minute.
I was particularly like that because I think I was always the last one to get out of my sleeping bag. I would leave it until the last possible moment to get out of bed because I just I couldn't be doing with that. But she was one of those annoying morning people who could just get up and be happy, and I don't like that.
Yeah. Throughout the day, then, one thing I have to say is, like, if you're a budding photographer, if you enjoy photography, have a camera with you, take it with you wherever you go. Like, some of the photos that you can get out there are absolutely unreal. And I don't mean just take it with you on the hikes and stuff. If you're going off, taking 5 minutes to yourself off into the woods, which, the three of us did quite often, take your camera with you. You'd never know what you're going to come across or what's going to be an amazing photo. We'll tweet out one of the photos that I took on just my phone, but it's of you crossing the bridge, like a little a rope bridge, glacier in the mountains in the background. It's one of my favorite pictures. It's actually up on my wall right now over there. We'll tweet that out.
Yeah, it's a wonderful picture. It really is. It really encapsulates what that hike was.
Yeah, well, it's just an attempt to give you an idea of what it is. But even if you're going for breakfast, whatever you're doing, keep your camera with you. But during the day as well, we rotated the stuff, didn't we, that we carried. So, but that only lasted up until about day 4. Because when we got over that main bit, the next, hour or so was downhill. And I love a bit of trail running, and I especially love running downhill and stuff, so I just took off. But about halfway down, my bag split and shit started going everywhere.
That's right, because you were you were running down this mountain, and of course your bag's bouncing all over the place, which was putting strain on everything. So it just exploded on you, didn't it?
Yeah, so we had to do a bit of rejigging going forward with stuff to carry and stuff like that, but we made it work.
We did. I mean, by that point, we were back on the proper tourist trail. It was a lot flatter than what we'd just done. And there was almost like a kind of camaraderie because there weren't many people who had done the full 8 days. And so the first 4 days, there was the 3 of us and then 2 or 3 or 4 other pairs of people doing it. And we'd sort of only see them at the campsites at night, and we'd all chat to each other and stuff. And then by the time we got onto the actual tourist part of the trail where it was just crawling with people, we kind of developed this sense of community amongst ourselves, and we kind of looked on the other people as like bloody tourists. You don't know, man, because you weren't there. You don't know what we've been through, that kind of thing.
Oh, completely.
It was just a really nice bond that we had amongst these people. And when we got into the main tourist trail, it was very flat, and particularly go on the final day when we were at our most tired, walking up the final mountain to the towers, the 3 towers that are the purpose of going to see this, we're on the trail now also with the people, the day trippers, the people doing the one-day hikes, and there are people there complaining or finding it tiring. And I just remember the three of us with our laden backpacks, with our 8 days of trekking behind us, with our blistered feet, powering past the people who had just got off the bus. You know, we were just conditioned for it now, and we flew up that last mountain. I really remember that clearly, that we just sort of, we whizzed up it. It was the fastest day we had, I think. By the time we got off finished the trail, I actually remember waiting for the bus to arrive. You know, we'd booked our bus in advance. We knew we were going to be away for 8 days. And I remember waiting for that bus with the sort of team of people that we'd gone around the whole circle with, plus one or two that we picked up from the main touristy one as well. And we were just all like, we were buzzing. You know, we were all super excited because we'd done it. We were leaving. We were going back to Puerto Natales, to a hostel. We were going to have a warm shower. We were going to go to the supermarket. And I remember you offering to cook everyone a big meal. And that's exactly what we did. We all went and stayed in the same hostel. It was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was like 6 or 7 of us, I think, in the end that went back and stayed in the same hostel. I think we all stayed in the same room. And let's assume there was 7 of us, and then 6 of us, we all chipped in for a load of food. The German guy cooked the rice, because anyone who knows me knows I struggle cooking rice for some reason. But then I just made a big giant chili, had a few cold beers, and that was a really nice, relaxing evening. And it was weird, like none of us were like passed out super tired by the time we got back and ate either.
No, I think we were just so like, we were on a high, you know, from having achieved what was a massive thing. And I don't know about you, but I definitely underestimated it, you know. It was a lot harder than I thought it would be.
Oh, without a doubt.
And I think we just had that high of achievement and success and overcoming everything, and just being back in civilization was just actually a wonderful feeling, you know.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But as I said at the top, you know, I was very, very hesitant to do it, but it's easily one of the top 5, top 10 things I've ever done in my life. We can tweet out these pictures. We can tell you all about it, but it doesn't compare to actually being there and doing it. You know, I've now seen tons of ice and snow fall from a glacier into a lake or a river. You know, like random things like that you can see on TV or on YouTube, whatever, but you can't get the real feel for it until you see it happen 100, 200 yards away from you.
Yeah, and the noise it makes when it falls away as well. The first time you hear it, you don't even know what that sound is, that cracking, crunching noise. You can tell it's something big, and then you look across and you see cracking and crumbling and crunching of the glacier splashing, crashing down into the water below. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. You know, we did it in April, wasn't it? I think it was actually Easter over the time that we were doing it, or we arrived back on Easter Sunday or something.
It'll have been around that time, and we were right at the end of the season as well, because I know that 2 weeks later they closed the national parks. It was too cold and the weather was too bad. So we were one of the last groups to be allowed to go on, and particularly to go around the whole 8-day trek and go over the pass. You know, we were one of the last groups that year to be able to go around that. And
without a doubt. And one of the things that we'll say, or that I'll say at least, is like, if you do this, as soon as you finish the hike, it's like, right, we're setting up here. First thing that you should do is like either set up the tent or change your clothes. Don't do anything else other than those 2 things, because you'll want to get out of the sweaty clothes. You'll feel warm, but as soon as you start to cool down, you will cool down rapidly, because your sweat will start to evaporate and you'll just get really, really cold really quickly. That's just another health and safety advice.
Yeah, that's what we're all about here on the Bottomless Pit Podcast.
It is. So there you go, guys. If you have done this hike before, let us know for sure. If you're interested in doing it, or if you've done a hike like it, let us know. There's probably a couple of things that we've left out, but we'll include them in our tweets as we go and as we promote this episode when it comes out. Just one thing, next week there won't be an episode. Just warning you now, if you're looking forward to hearing us on the Thursday, you won't be hearing us on that Thursday specifically, unless you'd like to go back, check out some of our previous ones, which you'd be very welcome to. So you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Search for the Bottomless Pit Podcast. It's a nice green logo, TBP is on it. That always gets me. But yeah, look for us, subscribe to us, share us, rate us, review us, comment on all of our episodes, comment on the podcast in general. We're always looking for feedback, you guys, and for suggestions, for future topics. We are the Bottomless Pit Podcast. There's very little that we won't talk about. And now I hear you asking, how can I get in contact if I have an idea? You can comment on the SoundCloud page. If you just search for the Bottomless Pit Podcast, you can go to Facebook, search for the Bottomless Pit Podcast, like us, throw us a message on there, or put something on our wall, start sharing our page as well. We'd appreciate that. You can tweet at us. We are very, very active on Twitter, not just with ourselves and with our audience, but with other little startup podcasts as well, and some much, much bigger ones. So go to Twitter and search for @TheBP Podcast. That is @TheBP Podcast on Twitter. I personally am on Instagram at OCR Cove. Is my name on there. That's also my name on Twitter @OCR Cove. If you want to email us, you can do for a nice long message, or if you're looking for some private info, you can either DM us on Twitter or just email us. Our email address is bottomlesspitpodcast@gmail.com. So as I said, guys, wherever you normally get your podcast, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Acast, Google Play, my app that I use, it's called Podcast Addict. Absolutely anywhere. Our YouTube channel is still there, up and running. It's still alive, just about. So search for us, the Bottomless Pit Podcast, wherever you get us. So subscribe, share, rate, review, all of that absolutely lovely stuff. We'll catch you in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.